They keep a box of photographs in the living room. Shannon's parents, Frank and Sandra Watts. It's been almost 8 years now. 8 years since August 13th, 2018. 8 years since the phone call. 8 years since everything ended. And still they pull out the photographs. They look at them. They search for answers in faces that can't speak back. This is Fatal Whispers. We tell stories that linger, stories that demand to be understood. And if you're new here, welcome. You're in the right place. In 2026, Sandra Watts sits in her home in North Carolina and holds a picture of her daughter. Shanann is smiling. She's always smiling in these photos. Her hair is perfect. Her makeup is flawless. She's holding Bella on one hip and Celeste on the other. Chris stands behind them, his hand resting on Shannon's shoulder. They look happy. Sandra remembers thinking they looked happy. "We thought we knew what we were looking at," Sandra says now, her voice quiet. "We thought we were watching our daughter build the life she'd always dreamed of." But photographs lie, or rather, they tell the truth you want to see. Shanann was their fighter. She survived lupus as a teenager, so when she got healthy, she grabbed life with both hands. She met Chris Watts in her late 20s, quiet, steady, safe. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't ambitious, but he seemed kind, Sandra thought, reliable. He seemed like the kind of man who would never hurt anyone. They married in 2012. Bella was born in 2013, Celeste in 2015. Sandra remembers watching Chris play with the girls, patient and gentle. "He was a good father," she says now, and her voice catches. "Or we thought he was, we thought we knew him." But you can live with someone for years and never see the parts they choose to hide. Shanann documented everything: Facebook posts, Instagram stories, YouTube videos for Lavelle, the health company she worked for. She posted about Blessed Life and Family First. She posted videos of family dinners and birthday parties. She posted about her marriage, about how Chris was her rock. Sandra watched those videos. She believed them. "We all believed them," she says, "because why wouldn't we? Our daughter was happy. Our granddaughters were thriving." In spring 2018, Shanann found out she was pregnant again. A boy. They were going to name him Nico. She posted a video of herself telling Chris. He smiled. He said all the right things. But Sandra remembers watching that video later, after everything, and seeing something she'd missed. His eyes, they were empty. Frank Watts doesn't look at the photographs as much as his wife does. "I look at Chris in those pictures now," Frank says, "and I think, you were already planning it, weren't you? You were already gone." But back then they didn't see it. They thought his silence meant he was stable. They didn't know silence could be a weapon. "We thought we knew what we were looking at," Sandra says again. But they didn't. None of them did. Sandra remembers the phone calls getting shorter. Shanann would call every Sunday, without fail. She'd talk for an hour about the girls, about work, about plans. But in spring 2018, the calls changed, quieter, faster. "I asked her if everything was okay," Sandra says, "and she said yes. She always said yes." But there was something in her voice, worry. Money was always a problem. The bankruptcy in 2015, the credit card debt, the mortgage crushing them. Shanann was working constantly, posting videos, recruiting for Lavelle, selling the promise of financial freedom. Chris was working too, long hours, but it was never enough. "We offered to help," Frank says, but Shanann was proud. They thought it was just stress, just the normal weight of raising 2 kids and trying to stay afloat. They didn't know it was breaking something inside Chris, or giving him an excuse. In May 2018, Shanann decided to take the girls to North Carolina for 6 weeks, a long summer visit. Chris would stay behind. He had to work, Shanann said. Sandra thought it was a good idea. Give him space. Give the marriage room to breathe. "We thought it would help," she says now, her voice heavy with regret. We thought time apart would make him miss her. But absence doesn't create longing in someone who's already left. It creates opportunity. Chris barely called during those 6 weeks. Shanann would FaceTime him with the girls. He'd smile, say the right things, but his eyes were somewhere else. Sandra noticed. He seemed distracted, she says, but I told myself it was work, exhaustion. She didn't tell herself the truth. That he was building another life, with another woman. Silence isn't always peace. Sometimes it's a decision already made. If you've seen this pattern before in your life or someone else's, share your story below. You're not alone in missing the signs. Shanann confided in her mother. Chris was different, cold. He didn't seem excited about the baby, didn't seem interested anymore. She thought it was the pregnancy. She thought it would get better. She sent him books about marriage, planned a couple's retreat. She was fighting. Chris was already gone. Frank remembers the last time he saw Chris before everything happened. Late July, Chris flew out for a quick visit. He played with the girls, smiled in photos. But there was something missing. He didn't touch her, Frank says, didn't hold her hand, didn't kiss her. At the time, Frank thought maybe they'd had a fight. He didn't think it meant anything. But it did. It meant Chris had already decided. On August 7th, Shanann and the girls flew back to Colorado. Sandra hugged her goodbye at the airport. I love you, Shanann said. I love you too, call me when you land. Shanann promised. 6 days later, she was dead. We didn't see it, Sandra says now. We thought his silence meant he was calm. We thought his distance meant he needed space. We were wrong. Sandra learned about Nicole Kessinger from a detective. 3 days after her daughter disappeared. Your son-in-law was having an affair, the detective said. Sandra didn't believe it, couldn't. But the evidence didn't lie. Text messages, Google searches, credit card receipts. He'd been seeing her since June, while Shanann and the girls were in North Carolina, while his wife was pregnant. He was with someone else. In 2026, Sandra's voice is steady when she talks about Nicole, but there's anger underneath. She knew he was married, Sandra says, and she didn't care. Nicole was 28, single, child-free, a coworker. She was everything Shanann wasn't, uncomplicated, unburdened, free. Frank's jaw tightens when he talks about her. She gave him an escape, he says, and he chose that over his family. But it wasn't just about Nicole. It was about what she represented. A blank page, a life without debt or responsibility or the weight of being someone's husband and father. Chris didn't love her. He loved the absence she offered. The detectives showed Sandra the Google searches from Chris's phone. She remembers staring at the list, unable to process it. How long does it take for a body to decompose in oil? Can a cadaver dog smell a body in water? Nicole Kessinger. Cheap flights to Aspen. When do you know your marriage is over? He was researching his exit, while Shanann was posting videos about their future. He was shopping for apartments, while she was shopping for baby clothes. He was planning to erase them. I don't understand how someone does that, Sandra says. How you sleep next to someone and plan their death. How you kiss your children goodnight and know you're going to kill them. She pauses. But he didn't see it as killing them. He saw it as solving a problem. The affair gave Chris permission. Not to leave. That would have been too complicated, too expensive. Divorce meant lawyers and custody and child support. It meant Shanann still being in his life. He didn't want that. He wanted them gone, completely, permanently. And Nicole made that feel possible. She made him feel entitled. And entitlement, Sandra has learned, is one of the most dangerous emotions. If this story is affecting you, don't keep it to yourself. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the conclusion. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it. Some stories save lives by being told. Frank thinks about the timeline now. June, Chris starts the affair. August 7, Shanann and the girls fly home. August 13, they're all dead. He had 6 days, Frank says. 6 days to change his mind, to tell her the truth, to just leave. But he didn't. Because leaving wasn't the fantasy. Erasure was. Sandra remembers what the prosecutor said. Chris Watts didn't want a divorce. He wanted a do-over. And you can't have a do-over when the people from your old life are still breathing. Sandra's phone rang at 12:47 p.m. She was at work. She almost didn't answer. It was Shannon's friend, Nicole Atkinson. "I can't reach Shanann," Nicole said, her voice shaking. "She's not answering. Her car, here, but she's not. The police are here. Something's wrong." Sandra's heart stopped. In 2026, Sandra still remembers every detail of that moment. "I knew," she says. "I can't explain it, but I knew something terrible had happened." They flew to Colorado that night. By then, Chris was all over the news, standing in front of the house, pleading for his family to come home. "I just want them back," he said. Sandra watched the footage. She wanted to believe him. But something was off. He didn't look scared, she says. He looked nervous, like he was waiting to get caught. The next day, Sandra and Frank went to the house. Chris hugged Sandra. He cried. He said he didn't know where they were. "I came home from work, and they were just gone." Sandra searched his face for grief, for panic. She didn't find it. He was performing, she says, playing the part, but it didn't feel real. Frank asked questions. Where did you go? When did you last see them? Did you fight? Chris's answers were vague, contradictory. "I just want them home," he kept saying. But he never asked where they might be, never suggested places to search. He acted like someone who already knew they were dead. On August 15th, Chris failed a polygraph test. That evening, he was arrested. And then he confessed. Sort of. Before we continue, take a breath. This is the hardest part. If you need to pause, we'll be here. And if this story is reminding you why truth matters, leave a comment. Let's remember them together. He admitted to killing Shanann, the detective told them, but he's claiming she killed the girls. Sandra's legs gave out. "No," she said, "Shanann would never." But even in his confession, Chris was lying. Even caught, he was trying to control the narrative. On August 16th, police found the bodies. Shanann buried in a shallow grave at an oil site, 45 minutes from home. Bella and Celeste, submerged in separate oil tanks, pushed through 8-inch hatches. Sandra collapsed. Frank screamed. "He put them in oil tanks," Sandra says now, her voice hollow. "Our granddaughters, 4 and 3 years old. He put them in oil tanks." Frank's voice shakes. "He didn't just kill them. He tried to make them disappear completely." That's not rage. That's not lost control. That's evil.
Work of the devil.
He put Shannann's body inside the cab?
And that floorboard on the floor. That's where they found all the
So
hair.
this is like a king cab?
That
has a
work
back
truck.
seat?
Yeah, 4-door.
So the girls were, their feet were on their mommy, but they thought she was sleeping or sick.
Yeah, well, yeah, you don't know what they thought, you know? You can only imagine.
Well, as a grandfather, I can't imagine.
Those are my grandchildren. I love them. They were mine.
What do you say to yourself about that?
There's many times that I just feel like giving up. If it wasn't for God, I wouldn't be here.
I've talked to my wife, Robin, about this, and she sends her love, and she says, I absolutely know what haunts Sandy as a grandmother is hearing her daughter's voice in her head and hearing her grandchildren's voice in her head.
Dr. Phil, I felt my daughter's spirit the moment she died. Something woke me up, and I sat at the foot of, sat up, and a spear went through my forehead, and I heard the Holy Spirit say, Shanann. And I said, holy, something happened to my daughter. I knew, I swear to God, I knew. I woke up Frankie, I woke up the whole house. I said, something's wrong with Shanann. I'm telling you, something's wrong. And
We didn't know she was missing yet, We didn't know anything.
But you knew.
She knows all the time. She's got intuition. I don't know how she knows these things.
So
She
what
came
did
out of
y'all
my
think when
womb.
she came to you and said this?
oh,
I didn't think
paranoid.
anything of it. Yeah, I was like, Mom, you're just worried. She's
I
probably
didn't think
sleeping.
nothing of it.
What did you learn about Nico at the time Shannon's life was taken?
We didn't know if it was a boy or girl yet. They had found out, but they were
Thursday
waiting
night.
to release it.
Thursday night they found out. Wow. And they were going to do a coming out party of being a boy, but they put that on freeze because he was being,
Strange. Distant.
yeah.
And so the baby was alive when her life was taken?
Yes. And Chris was saying, to protect himself, that the baby wasn't his. And then they tried to say that the baby wasn't alive. So I had to give rights of my grandson.
They learned the full truth later. Chris killed Shanann first. In their bedroom, she fought, she begged. He didn't stop. Then he went to the girls' rooms. Bella first, she struggled. She asked him why. Then Celeste. Then he loaded them into his truck, drove to the oil site, buried his wife, stuffed his daughters into tanks. Then he went to work, texted his mistress, acted normal. People ask me how someone does that, Sandra says, how a father kills his children. I don't think he saw them as his children anymore. I think he saw them as obstacles. In November 2018, Chris Watts stood in a courtroom and pleaded guilty. Sandra and Frank were there. They watched him accept 5 life sentences without parole. He didn't look at them, not once. Sandra gave her victim impact statement. You destroyed our family, she said. You took everything from us. And for what? So you could be with someone else. You're a coward. You couldn't even tell the truth. You blamed Shanann. Frank spoke next. I trusted you, he said. I called you my son, and you murdered my daughter, my granddaughters, my grandson. I will never forgive you. Chris stared at the floor. He said nothing. In 2026, 8 years later, they visit the cemetery every week. Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and Nico are buried together in North Carolina. Sandra brings flowers. Frank brings stuffed animals for the girls. We tell them what's happening in our lives, Sandra says. We tell them we miss them. We tell them we're sorry we didn't see it coming. Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and Nico say their names. Write them in the comments if you need to. And if this story changed something in you, hit like. Not for us, for them. So their names keep echoing. The question haunts them. Could we have stopped it? I don't know, Sandra says. I'll never know. Frank is more direct. No, because Chris had already decided. And when someone decides to kill, you can't love them out of it. They've learned things over the years. He killed Shanann first because she was the biggest obstacle. He killed the girls because he couldn't leave witnesses, and because they were part of the life he didn't want anymore. He put them in oil tanks because he thought they'd dissolve, thought no one would find them. He didn't expect to get caught. People ask if I think he feels remorse, Sandra says. I don't know and I don't care, because even if he does, it doesn't change anything. They're still gone. Frank nods. He took everything, our daughter, our granddaughters, our future, every holiday, every birthday. And for what? So he could avoid an uncomfortable conversation. Chris Watts is in prison in Wisconsin. He will die there. He's given interviews, written letters, tried to explain. But his explanations change. They contradict. He says he doesn't know why he killed the girls. But the evidence doesn't support it. The searches, the planning, the disposal. This wasn't a loss of control. This was a decision. Sandra has stopped trying to understand him. There's nothing to understand, she says. He wanted a different life, and instead of leaving, he killed. People want some deep explanation, some trauma. But sometimes evil is just simple, selfish, and quiet. They've spoken publicly over the years. Not for attention, but so people remember. Remember Shanann, not as a victim, but as a person, a daughter, a mother, a fighter. Remember Bella and CC, not as statistics, but as children who loved unicorns and their daddy, who trusted him completely. Remember Nico, the son who never got to be born. We want people to know their names, Frank says, because Chris tried to erase them, and we won't let that happen. Sandra nods. Shanann, Bella, Celeste, Nico. Those are the names that matter. Not his. In 2026, they still think about the warning signs. The silence, the distance, the emotional flatness. How normal it all seemed. We saw it differently back then, Sandra says. We thought silence meant peace. We thought calm meant safe. We were wrong. They want people to know. Silence can be dangerous. Withdrawal can be deadly. Some people don't explode, they just decide. And by the time you realize what's happening, it's already over. Frank looks at the photograph sometimes. That's my daughter, he says. Those are my granddaughters. That's my grandson she's carrying. And they deserved better. They deserve to live. If this story stays with you, share it. Subscribe so you never miss another. And if you need to talk, the comments are open. We're listening, always. Until the next truth, stay vigilant, stay kind. And remember, some whispers are warnings. Pay attention.